I know you answered this earlier and you said, look, I don't know where I'm going, but
I don't.
but we really need to know who you're gonna be in 5 years.
Oh God, I don't
It's
know.
the Immigrant Unfiltered podcast with Hamza Ali. Hey guys, it's the Immigrant Unfiltered podcast with your host Hamza Ali, and today I have a wonderful guest with me, Aadil Abedi. Of course, a lot of you may already know him. Is a fantastic. I looked you up online, by the way, and it says actor, but I will call you an artist
I need to
because
change
that's
that.
what you are. We met, you just mentioned earlier, 5 years ago. By the way, you know what? I didn't realize it was 5 years ago. So time passed so
I know,
quickly.
very fast.
And you just mentioned that you got your green card, so congrats on
Thank
that.
thank you.
And once again, thank you for being here on the podcast. It's an honor. It's a pleasure to have this conversation with you once again.
Thank you.
And before we get started, first question I love to ask all my guests right off the bat is, who are you? So in your case, it would be, who is Aadil Abedi? Give me the backstory. I want to hear it all.
Oh God, where do I start? Haven't been asked that question for a long time. So yeah, my name is Aadil Abedi. I am artist. I need to change that on my.
No, I think actor is cool too.
So that was in my past life. I actually was pursuing an acting career in my early 20s. But I think for me, I've always just been someone who is extremely creative. Coming from a bit of a traditional, Indian Pakistani background, it wasn't something that was necessarily frowned upon, but it wasn't something that was encouraged either. So I feel like I was always pushing against the wave and always trying to do something a little bit different. And, my father always said to me, if you can just get an undergrad in something stable, then you can go away and do what you want to do, which is, I guess, a standard Desi parent thing to say. But I guess who I am now, at age 36, after having done many kind of, having different kind of career paths and wearing different hats, I don't really want to say I'm anything or anyone. I'm very much kind of want to go with the flow. I'm very content and blessed as to, where I am in my life right now, as an artist, as a creator, as someone who has kind of navigated this path with no blueprint, and I'm kind of hoping, inshallah, the journey continues, and I'm very excited to kind of, like I said, I know it sounds generic, but kind of go with the flow. I just kind of want to see where it takes me. That's kind of it right now.
You touched on Pushback.
Yeah.
I'm very curious as to what that's like and how quickly at what age did that really begin? Because you're right. I mean, look, parenting, Arabian, Desi culture, there's, either doctor, lawyer,
Yeah.
attorney, whatever it is,
Yeah.
that's what you need to be, and that's kind of what you grow up to like,
Of course.
or
Yeah.
that's what you understand.
Yeah.
To be part of this world that you are in is very difficult for a lot of people, and there's a lot of challenges, and of
Yeah.
course, a lot of those start at home.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so, what was that journey like?
I won't sugarcoat it and say it was easy. It was definitely a challenge. I think the main thing that got me through it all was, alhamdulillah, having very supportive parents. And, I'm very aware of, a lot of my friends when I was graduating from, so I actually did an economics degree. So I did the whole, econ, and, a lot of my friends back in London are in finance, and, they're very happy and content doing their thing. But I know a lot of them have, inner desires of, if only we could have done this, if we could have done that. And I used to always hear the elder people, the elder, guys and girls in my family who would be doing very much, cookie cutter, 9 to 5, and, they had passions, but none of them really pursued them. And I don't know why there was always something in the back of my head, which was, I don't want to be doing something which I don't love, or at least like, and the idea of working for somebody always used to scare me. I never wanted to report to someone. I was very much, I did not do well answering to anybody. So I think from an early age, I had kind of decided that I'll do this, I'll do the degree for my father, but then after that, I have to just try myself. And, I think because I was very vocal with my parents about this, it wasn't something I hid. They kind of, I guess, knew, okay, at some point, Aadil might do something, might veer off the path. And I think I'm the youngest of 3. My brother is a doctor, haha, and my sister's a teacher. So they very much did the normal, made my parents kind of, tick the boxes in that way. And I guess by the time it came to me, they're like, okay, Aadil, he can do what he wants, and he can figure it out. But I'm very lucky that they gave me that space, and I was very fortunate to, very aware living at home. I never really had any kind of overhead in terms of rent and costs and responsibilities. So I kind of did have a little bit of a I guess you can say luxury of just kind of picking and choosing what I wanted to do, and that's when the whole acting thing actually started. My passion at that time was to not necessarily be in front of the camera, but just, work on a craft that was mine. And I used to, obviously, growing up watching Hollywood movies, Bollywood movies, and, being in England, I just had a desire to give it a shot. It was something which I tried for a couple of years, didn't work out, and, I have no regrets about it. I went to New York acting school in 2011 for 6 months, and then I moved to India, Bombay, did that for a whole year. Just living in India for a year, a British boy going over and living in Bombay was the biggest learning experience of my life. It was the toughest time of my life, and it was something which I chose to do, so it was very difficult to go and complain about to my parents, because every time they'd call me, they'd be like, "So Aadil, how's it going?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's amazing, it's so much fun." They had no idea I was washing my clothes in a bucket, I was sharing a room with 3 other guys, I was traveling in these rickshaws to auditions, and there'd be 10, 15 guys who looked exactly like me with the placard and doing all the stuff. So, I feel like it was very character building, that entire experience. And I'm very blessed that, I left it when I left it. It wasn't like I wish I could have done more. It was one of those things where, I think my faith and just knowing where I came from very much played into it as well. And I guess art for me was always just a side thing. It was never something that was going to become my career. I used to do it for friends and family on the side here and there. And even then, my dad used to always tell me, he was, "Aadil, you need to now do something properly. You tried it, it didn't work. Now you have to get a normal job and do the normal thing." And I feel it's funny because in the beginning that the pushback wasn't there, but the pushback came then when I was 26, 27, when my parents were realizing, "Okay, Aadil, we gave you the chance. Now you have to go do that." And then I was like, "Damn, this can't be it. I was so close and it didn't work out, but there has to be another avenue." And I think when my dad told me, he was like, "You can stay in the house, but I'm literally cutting you off. Now you have to do your own thing." And there was a bit of a fire, I guess, under me. And after that, I actually went back to an old marketing job I was doing before I left for New York. And all those guys who were still there, they were like, "Weren't you supposed to become an actor?" I was like, yes. It was a great exercise in humility, and the art. Honestly, painting was just something. Like I said, I did it as a side thing. I had a few pieces in the house that I did for my parents and family, friends, and it was a bit of a dark time. This is in 2013, I think, when all the acting thing finished, and I was back at that old job, and I'd go on the underground in England on the tube, and I just felt I'm just like a minion. Not no disrespect to anybody else who was doing that at the time, but for me, I was like, this can't be it. And I was very much just aware that I don't know if I had it in me to do something else by myself. And they say God works in mysterious ways, but a family friend of ours came and saw the work in my house, and she was a family friend of my parents, and she loved it, and she said, "Oh, Aadil, you should come to Dubai and bring your work over there. It's, you're doing calligraphy." And about that time, it was very basic. It was just Allah, Muhammad, nothing as intricate and as I do now. And she was like, "I'll host a little dinner for you. Let's start with that." And then I was in my head, I was like, I don't know if there's a part of me. My dad was like, "You're not doing it." He was kind of like, just be very careful what you decide to do now. And I was like, let me just give it one last try. Let me just do this and see if I can make it work. And alhamdulillah, yeah, it went well. I mean, that show, it was a home show situation, but that is what got the ball rolling. After earning no money for 2-3 years as a starving actor, I sold some paintings for, at a higher price point, and I was just like, damn, okay, I think I can maybe make this work. But and then that's how the art career started. So I've been a full-time artist since February 2014, and alhamdulillah for the last 9 years. That's been my...
Yeah, you've grown mad. The amount of success you've
yeah,
had.
well, no, I wouldn't say that, but like I said, alhamdulillah, I'm just very blessed to have lasted this long, and I hope it continues. So,
Alhamdulillah. No, I think, I'm sure that you'll only grow from here. It looks like you're doing fascinating things.
Yeah, inshallah.
What was young Aadil like? So now I'm hearing all these stories, and you make it sound so easy. Like, yeah, I lived with in this room with 3 other people.
Yeah.
That there's a story there, man. And we want to really understand like what that life was like. But what was young Aadil like before he went and did all those things?
Young Aadil was. How much could we talk about? I feel like I need to figure out what I can say, what I can't say. I think I was definitely extroverted.
Okay.
I not that I wanted to be center of attention, but there was definitely a part of me that was a lot of show. And at parties, I would be the one that would be doing all the dancing and all the singing and all the stupid, honestly, the stupid things. And I think just being the youngest out of all my family, and I used to just get away with all kinds of rubbish, really. And everyone would be like, oh, Adil, this, that, and the other. And and it was a lot of just we call it pagalpan. I was just being silly and all the time, and I used to be very funny and imitate people in the family and take the mick out of people. And I don't know if I was covering up any kind of insecurity or anything, but I'm guessing there was an element of that as well, where maybe because I knew I wanted to do things or go in a certain direction which no one in my family had ever done or did, and it was one of those things where I'd get a thought and I'm like, oh no, I can't even go there because that's not even fathomable. No one does this, no one will do this, and why are you even thinking about it? So maybe I was a lot more trying to get all my angst out in all those kind of more silly ways. But I would talk to everybody, anybody. I wasn't very shy. I didn't really like being by myself. I used to always surround myself with people, very social. And yeah, I feel like a lot of the time, a lot of my friends and family would say I used to be the life of the party, I guess. And it's funny because then later on, as I got a bit older, I feel like, as I guess every child eventually realizes that the world is not, the best place at times. You become a little bit more introverted as well. But yeah, for most of my youth, and I had an amazing childhood, alhamdulillah, and my cousins and my family. But yeah, I was definitely a bit of a joker, I think, for sure.
And did you grow up outside of like the Indo-Paki area? Like what was growing up in London like?
A little bit. I mean, I think so. I grew up in the 90s, in the UK, and the school I went to was predominantly white. There were the token, Indian community and the Pakistani friends, but majority of it was white. My father, honestly, alhamdulillah, he really, I think for his generation, really thought differently to the way other men his age were thinking. He was very big on putting me and my siblings into extracurricular activities outside of school. So I learned piano, I did violin, we did athletics, I did drama, we did coding. It was one of those things where he really wanted us to have a breadth of experiences. I wasn't really into sports, and my brother was obsessed with football and doing all those type of things, and I think I genuinely believe I have the desire for the arts, I guess, because my dad very much instilled that in us. He didn't think that if I put Aadil in all these things he'd want to do it. He just wanted to give us, a taste of everything.
Did he try to put you in any sports?
I think athletics was the best he was gonna get out of me. Running, I love running, but other than that, you're not gonna see me pick up a bat or pick up a racket of any kind. He very much wanted us. I think he understood. My brother was gonna do this. Okay, Charlie, let's put Samir into that. Aadil is gonna do this. Let's put him into this. And but I'm very, very grateful. And I think at the time I took it for granted as to how open-minded he was about wanting us to do different things, and especially when a lot of the other men in our community, even my cousins and my friends, they would just go to school, come back home. They won't really do anything else. Whereas, we'd have piano recital, we'd have violin classes, we'd have musical stuff, art stuff, drama stuff. There was so many extracurricular stuff that we did that I'm so grateful that he did that. And I wish, for the future generations as well that come, like my nieces and my nephews, they get to experience these different avenues as well, so that they can make up their mind as to what they want to do, as opposed to just the more stringent set. I don't know if I say stereotypical, but things that we expect from them.
It seems like he strategically put you guys in a position to win based on who you were.
Yeah, very much.
Right.
Yeah, and if there was a time he felt okay, my sister wasn't doing very well, he would take her out, put her in something else. If I was doing something great, he'd get, kind of nurture that a lot more. And me and my sister have a bit of a closer age gap. My brother's a little bit older than us, and obviously, he raised my brother in the 80s. He raised me and my sister in the 90s. My dad is an accountant, or was an accountant, so his means changed as well as time went on. So I think my brother sometimes laughs. He's like, oh, when I was your age, I didn't have that. I'm like, well, what can I say? Dad wasn't like that back then. So sorry. My dad was very cognizant of all of our each individual personalities, and like I said, even to date, my dad, I love him. He's my role model. Very inspired by him all the time, and I think I feel like teary even saying that. But he's very much just let me be me, and my mum, of course. My mum is super supportive, but I wouldn't say she took a back seat, but I think because my dad was so involved, she was always supportive of whatever he did. There was never any kind of a pushback from her. She just kind of let him lead,
Right.
and because he led so well, it was kind of like you know what, you're doing a good job. Jalo,
Yeah.
carry on. You do your thing. So no, and I think I carry that. And I think the young Aadil, I always wanted my dad to, and I guess this is something which I'm sure you can relate to as well. I really wanted my dad to be happy with whatever.
Yeah, proud of you.
Proud of me, whatever I decided to do with my career. It was always the back of my head. I was like, I need him to be happy.
I think that's just part of our culture.
Right? I'm guessing with the same thing with
yeah,
you. What kind of setup do you have in your family? Is it?
So my setup is very interesting. I actually moved here by myself.
Okay.
In 2013. I came here alone. I had a wife and kids at that time.
Oh, wow.
So I came here. I literally talked to my wife. She's sitting over there. So I talked to her and I was like, hey, Sana, you know what? I'm going to go to America for a couple of weeks and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'm just going to go check it out.
Where are you coming from?
So I was coming from Dubai at the time.
Dubai, okay.
And she was like, yeah, sure, go check it out. If there's opportunity, why not? We had just come out of a recession. We were starting to recover. It was really bad. Like that city was in really bad shape at that time. So came here, picked up the phone, called her. Hey, you know what? I don't think I'm coming back. And spend a year without her.
Wow.
After a year, got her here, processed immigration, did all of that stuff. So very, very.
And Texas? You came to Texas?
Texas. And then, once my business grew, all of that, then brought my family here as well. And so now my entire family lives here.
Everyone's here.
Everyone's here.
But you started it, basically.
I started it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
how was it coming by yourself? Like.
It was interesting. Zara's here. So actually, Zara's mom took me in, and I lived at her house for a year, almost a year.
Oh wow.
I lived as a guest in their home, and until I could get up on my feet and do my own thing.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
Wow, mashallah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Could you ever see yourself leaving, or are you pretty much set here?
So I mean, look, nothing's permanent.
Yeah.
Life's short.
Same.
I think you should live in the moment.
Yeah.
And alhamdulillah, as business grows, as money comes,
Yeah.
I think experiences are more important.
Definitely.
And I think just limiting, especially when you come from such a diverse background,
Yeah.
limiting yourself to one country is just not an option.
Totally.
I don't think that's a thing.
That's a good way to look at it as well. Like I said, nothing is permanent.
Right.
And then people always ask me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, to be honest, I don't know. I mean, I've lived, alhamdulillah, in India. I've done some stuff in Dubai. I've left London, and now I live in the US. And, I'm in the process now moving from the East Coast to the West Coast. And, it's funny. I feel as you get older, I think there is a feeling of wanting to be near family. That's definitely something which I miss because, my entire family was in England. Every immediate family member, my parents, siblings, my grandparents, everybody was there. So I had a very full childhood. And then maybe that's probably why I used to enjoy being around a lot of people because everybody there is either your friends, and if it wasn't your friends, then it was your family. There was always someone around. And then cut to move over here to America, and where I am in DC, the Virginia area, there's not a single family member. So and I left England at 30. So it's kind of leaving a full life, right? All my college friends, high school friends, and everybody who I had over there, the experiences, the memories, the very deep relationships I had with people, I had to really start from scratch again when I moved here.
Yeah, it was the exact same. I came here when I was 29.
There you go. Oh wow!
Same thing.
Look at
And
that.
I had 2 kids and a wife at that
Yeah,
time.
I had no one.
Yeah.
So you're way more tough than I had situations. So.
Talk to me about school. So you said you studied econ, and you glanced over that just a second. And obviously that was something you did to for your parents,
Yeah.
just to have that as a backup.
Yeah.
How
Don't ask me anything about economics.
Well,
I don't remember
how
anything
important
about
do you think it is to have a backup when doing something like? Because the way I look at it, or the way I think about it, is you may have very well been able to do all those things just because you knew you had something in the background. I don't know. I'm asking.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And it's funny because there's a saying, and I've heard many people say this around, if you have a plan B, then your plan A doesn't work, right? You literally just have to have one plan. And I don't know if it's again, Desi Indian mentality where you have to have 10 plans just in all these just in case. But at that time, now I think with the way life is with social media, even now with AI, everything which is just changing, I just feel is not that necessary to have, for example, which I had, which I thought I needed, which was a degree. I think it was great to go through the process, to go through the structure doing an undergraduate degree. And I know UK and US is a little bit, there's differences. Mine was 3 years and done. So by the time I was 21, I'm out there in the world. And, you know, I look back and I don't regret it for sure. And at the time, it was the best knowledge that my parents had had, and I guess I had. And again, there was nobody that had done anything different. So in my head, the thought of not doing that and going straight into pursuing something creative also scared me, if I'm being honest. It wasn't as if I was, I don't want to do this. I was like, yeah, your dad, you're right, I should do this. I'll only be 21. I still have time, inshallah, to do all the stuff I want to do. And I'm blessed because I met, you know, my lifelong friends at my college, and who are till date, you know, my best friends, and I miss them all. But I feel now with new avenues to, you know, make money through various other streams, various other avenues. There's so many different ways. I don't think it's as clear cut as it was back then. I think a lot of people now, especially the younger generation, they're finding so many different ways of. There's so many new jobs that have opened up now, and those jobs that didn't even exist like a decade ago. So there's so much more opportunity. I think there's a lot more scope for people to do a lot more stuff earlier on than it was maybe for us who thought, okay, we have to do X, Y, Z before we can get to. Oh my God, I said Z.
Yeah.
Damn. Oh my God, Z. I've been here too long. And so I think it's important now that people realize whatever path they want to go on. I think I personally believe, I never really thought of, I'll go back to economics, genuinely. Even though I dipped in and I dipped out every now and then, I really rode those waves, I think, of no money, no idea what I was doing, because I kept thinking of the greater good, which was, I want to be my own boss. You know, I don't want to work for anybody. I want to work hard so that I can earn, not be in a pecking order of, you know, for someone else to earn more money than me, if that makes sense. So that was very much what was my drive throughout. And I genuinely, hand on my heart, like I said, I've been doing this now for 9 years now, and I don't ever think, I'll go back and do something else. This is it, and it has been it since 2014. So I wouldn't want to think you need backups.
And the actor piece?
What about the actor piece?
So obviously econ was a backup.
Yeah, I guess to the actor, yeah. Acting, honestly, it was just one of those things. Like I said, it was something I wanted to try.
But like I can say, I want to try acting. What does one really do to become an actor?
Well, again, there's different ways, and I think in different places as well. I think I may have shot myself a bit in the foot by going to India and trying it over there. It's, you know, the whole Bollywood, okay. You know, very nepotistic industry. It's not very much based around talent. It's based more on, you know, what family do you come from, who do you know, and you know, I was a British guy rocking up, and I was very aware that I wasn't going to become like a big shot, you know, A-list Bollywood actor. I was kind of looking for character roles, comedic roles, maybe dark characters, this, that, and the other. And back then there was no streaming. Yeah. So now all these really cool shows are coming out on Amazon. Yeah, so many really, really cool stuff. And I feel, you know, if I was there now, that could have been a cool opportunity. But back then there was nothing. And if I'd come to America potentially, that could have been different. But I don't know. Again, I'm very aware of the family that I come from, and you know, my background, and you know, not to get all like, you know, I'm not religious or anything in that way, but just I never wanted to do something that my parents would have felt any kind of shame, you know, and especially in India, in that industry, it's very sordid, it's very dark, it's very murky, and lines get very blurred and all the type of stuff. And I had exposure to certain things which I was very much just not going to do. I was very much like, I want to work on the craft of acting. Right. All the strings that come with this, and I'm hoping you know what I mean, I don't want to be a part of it. And I realized, you know, I'd get a role for a film or an ad or a shoot or a campaign, and then something else would come up. They'd want me to do something, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. And the next day, they'd throw me out of the project. And I was like, this is just stupid. I'm not going to get anywhere unless I do something that's going to go against my morals and my principles. So anyway, all to say that, you know, I think those lessons came sooner rather than later. I'm blessed that I only really spent 2-3 years doing that. It's not as if I spent a decade of my life. You know, I very much, you know, did it, tried it. It was hard, it was tough, learned amazing kind of life experiences. You know, my Hindi and Urdu, I guess, improved a little bit back then. But I came back to London at 26, and I still felt like, you know what, I still have more to do and give and try. So there's no regrets about that at all. And
is that when you went to New York?
So I went to New York when I was 24.
Okay, so first.
So that was first. I got the kind of education, the schooling in it. Got, I guess, like a semi-qualification in acting. I went to the Lee Strasberg Method Acting School. And then in 2012, I moved to India.
Is that part of getting like the actual job, like the roles? You
Not,
have to be part of
not
that?
really. Again, no, it's not. It's something I wanted to do because, again, I took the craft so seriously. I was like, I don't want to just rock up and just be like, hey, give me a script, I'll do it. No, I wanted to learn what's the technique, what's the form, how do you learn, how do you memorize lines, diction, dialect, all these things. Because, again, I was taking it seriously. But I think because I went to India, where people over there are more like, Jao, just do it, here's the line. I was very much like, and they would always be like, oh, you'd be great for this character. That's not what I want to do. And it was like I said, I wouldn't say it was the wrong decision, but in a way, it's funny, my parents always say it was the right decision because maybe if something else had happened, I would have probably continued it and who knows where I'd be right now. But it's funny, through my art, I do feel like I get to show, it's a whole other obviously creative side, but with the campaigns that I've done, with the brands that I've worked with, a lot of it, I really enjoy the kind of, being with my work, kind of being one with my work and showcasing what I can do through my work. Mine also, the eye is not necessarily on me, but it's on something that I'm making, obviously, which is being inspired by him. And I just feel like it's the best. I was actually speaking to my sister-in-law on the way here. It's like the best halal way I have of keeping everybody happy and my family. And at the end of the day, like I said, they're really proud of what I'm doing. So alhamdulillah, it's all worked out, I think.
So 26, you come back from India, you're back in London.
Yeah.
You pick up a paintbrush.
Mm-hmm.
And is that when it all began?
Yeah, well, I was mentioning prior to that, it would be just very much, I actually first picked up a brush in 2007. It was Ramadan, I was fasting and I was trying to kill some time. And I was flicking through a catalogue and there was some paintings and I thought to myself, let me just try and copy. It was like flowers.
And the paintbrushes were like, everything was widely available at home?
Oh yeah, everything. Well, I went to the store,
Okay.
equivalent of like a Michael's in England.
Okay.
And then went and bought some stuff and did it, put it up in the house. Back then on Facebook, I think I put it on Facebook as well. And so many people started, in the family, were like, oh my God, where did you buy that? Where did you buy that? And I was like, I just did it, I was trying to kill Rosa, trying to kill my fast, and then that's what came out of it. And then people started saying, "Oh, we'd love one." I was like, "I'm not. Why? I mean, it was very much. It was one of those things where I was like, "Why?"
You didn't get it.
No, I was
you
like,
didn't see it.
Didn't see it. And then they were like, "No, we'll pay you." And I was like, "To do what?" And they're like, "To paint for us." And I was like, I'll just do it for you. Like, don't pay me. I'll just tell me what you want. I'll just do it. So in the beginning, early days, I would just paint pretty much for free.
Yeah, because you don't monetize.
It wasn't, and that wasn't my intention. And it was very much just, oh, they like it, okay, fine, I'll do it if they like it, and if it makes them happy. And then they were insisting on paying. So then I was like, I don't know, £20, £30. They're like, no, we'll give you 50. And I was like, okay, fine. In my head, I'm like, that's a gas of tank. There we go. And I basically, after that, it was very much one of those things where charities would get in touch with me. I'd have like a table at a stall. I'd have some, paintings up on there, small pieces, and 50, 60 pounds, 70 pounds. And all I was thinking was that will pay for this jacket, or that will pay for this. I wasn't very much thinking of anything more than just, this is cool. It's a nice thing to do when I have some free time, and but my focus is, again, no one in my family or friends or anybody in my life. I wasn't around artists. I wasn't around creative people. There was no thought of this ever becoming a thing. But when I came back in 2013, like I mentioned, it was a bit of a tough time, mentally for me. And I went. My dad very kindly built a studio for me actually at the back of our house, and turned it into like a nice kind of situation where I could paint. And I remember, just being in a really rough phase and not very sure what I was doing, very much at a crossroads of just now what? I mean,
this is when you got cut off.
This is when I got cut off, yeah. And I was just so scared because I was thinking to myself, damn, all my friends, they've been working now since 21, 22. They're now buying houses and now they're getting married. And I'm like some unemployed actor, failed actor at 26, 27. And I need to do something. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do? And I think I had guilt from stuff from India and just generally whatever I was going through in my life. So I ended up, doing some of my best pieces back then when I was in a really dark place, which might sound a bit odd, but I remember I did this Surah Ikhlas piece. I still remember it was like a black going into dark brown. It was a very moody, very, very moody piece. And I remember as I finished it, I even looked at it and I felt, well, that's quite heavy. But then that lady that from Dubai, she saw that piece and she loved it. And it was based off of that, where she was like, you have to come to Dubai and do that. And that's what kind of started off. So it's funny how
That's crazy.
a very dark, a very uncertain time of my life, it very much it flowed just through me to paint something which was, again, there was not much thought behind it, but that kind of really got everything going. And
But what got you to paint like Surah Khlas?
so I think for me it was, I used to fear, well, not fear, but I used to think of themes that used to be around God's mercy, God's compassion, and forgiveness.
And is that something like from the very beginning you picked up the paintbrush?
Not from the beginning. It wasn't from the beginning. It was something I think because of the life experiences I had at that up until that point. I used to just be wary of wherever I go in life. I need to make sure that He is near me, and I'm very cognizant of Him. And for me, faith is very personal. It's a very inward thing. I'm not. I don't want to sound preachy or nothing like that. For me, it was just because my mind was going to all these wacky places, and like I said, living in New York, living in India, doing all these things, and being so just honestly, it was very. I don't know how else to say it. There was no constant in my life at that point. But the only constant that I used to feel was when I would open up a mat and just pray by myself in the corner. I'm not one to go to a mosque. I don't do very public displays of my faith. It's very much just a personal thing that I do, and I used to always just pray and just be like, just help me, help me figure out what I'm trying to do, and if this isn't for me, if I'm not going to have this crazy cool life, then make me be content with a normal job. But even that wasn't working out. So I'm like, what? Why is nothing? I just felt nothing was working out, and I would just err on the side of His compassion, His love, and that would kind of make me want to write the verses from the Quran that were based around.
So it was a form of expression.
Definitely. Very much flew. And it's something which even till date, I keep it with me. And in every exhibition or any collection that I do, there's always one verse from Surah Hadid which I put into every. If there's any, if I have 10 or 12 pieces, one will always have the phrase, "He is with you wherever you are." And I just feel like for me, again, this very nomadic life that I've led, living in different places, being all over the place, that kind of just grounds me. And I just feel very, just kind of like, it's like a hug, I feel. It just feels much more warm when I know that there's one piece in this collection where I know that the focus is, He's with me and I'm fine. And it's funny how that kind of started, like I said, back in 2013, when, again, no intention, no desire. It was a very, very low point in my life. And if it wasn't for that lady that saw that painting, which my parents, it was funny because my dad liked it, but he was a bit like, it's quite a dark color scheme. I was like, yeah, Dad, just put it up, it's fine. And we put it up, and then, yeah, that kind of got the ball rolling, really. And after that, I very much just left it up to God, and it just happened very organically after that.
So let's talk about the lady a little more. So obviously, this individual reached out to you, said, come to Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
And
you know Dubai very well.
I know Dubai very well, of course. I grew up there. So at that point, what do you think? Is this serious? Is this happening? Royal families? Like, what are the thoughts that are going on?
No, it was very much, again, what and can I really do this? Do I have it in me to give this a whole other shot, a try? I mean, she was a family friend of my parents. I didn't know who she was, but, she was very gracious, very loving, very sweet. Her name is Amina Auntie. And she basically just said to me, "Go, beta, I'll host a little dinner. You bring some paintings." And
she had connections.
She had connections, and she said she'll invite some of her auntie friends. It's actually funny, because that first event was a music party, and the way the setup of the room was the singers were at the front, and all the chairs were facing that way, and my work was here behind. So I'm standing with my work, and everyone's walking in, and then just sitting, and not even acknowledging that I'm right. I'm like, oh shit, oh crap, okay, no one's looking. So I have to sit for the entire 3-hour music party. Only when they get up and turn around to leave, they're like, oh, what is this in the corner? So I was like, oh, hi, yes, hello, this is me. It was so funny. Back then, I used to feel like such a salesman. I was like, oh, hello, standing next to my little stool. And then there was one lady from that show. Her name is Nahid Auntie. And she loved them all. I think she actually bought them all. And she goes, I want to do a dinner for you. next year. Come, this was November 2013. And then she said to me, I want you to do dinner. Come, bring 20 paintings with you. And I was like, oh. In my head, I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, great. Yeah. As soon as she left, I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? And she's like, I'll invite my auntie friends and my, like kitty party friends, and we'll just do like a little setup. And this is Emirates Hills. So do you know
yeah,
Emirates
of course.
Hills? Very lovely homes. Very affluent area. So I come back to London, and I literally do all the 20 paintings in like 2 months. And I always tell this funny story. The first 10 were very, very intricate, very elaborate. Rather than the next 10, I was like, whatever. I haven't got the energy to do this at this point. And then the job that I had, that marketing job, I remember the date was February 4th was the dinner. I handed in my 3rd resignation at that company in January. And they all were like, oh, when will we see you again? I was like, no, this is it. I'm not coming back. This has to be it. But in my head, low key, I was like, shit, I could be back.
Yeah, you could be like, okay.
I could be back. But I was like, screw it, I'm going to give one more chance. And then I left for Dubai on the 2nd of Feb, had the show on the 4th. And of those 20 pieces, I think I sold like 13. And I was just like, crap, how did this happen? Like, this was... Again, and then it was very much, and I don't know how, Dubai in those days, it was very much still the kind of affluent Pakistani Indian families, I guess, who were expats who moved there, who have obviously, mashallah, done very well for themselves. They were the ones who were kind of the patrons of the work, and they were the ones who were pushing it forward. So there were like 2 or 3 aunties that came who were Nahid aunties' friends, who were like, oh, I live in, Arabian ranches, or I live over here, come over here. And I was just like, okay, you know what, I'll do it. It's fine. There's no blueprint. I'm just going to see how this goes. And I'd go back to Dubai, I'd come back to London, do all the paintings, go back, fly them to Dubai, have the show. And alhamdulillah, the next 2-3 shows, it was going really well. And then I started feeling great. I was finally earning money after, again, it was 3 years of nothing. And I was very much like, oh, great. I was buying gifts for my dad, my mom, my sister. I was like being very like chill. And I was like, crap, everything's gone. Okay, let's go to Dubai. Let's go to another show. And then I got hit quite hard when there was the first time I wanted to do something by myself. And I didn't know how it worked. I wasn't sure what to do. I met this one lady. I won't name any names just in case. And she was, oh, well, I'll host a show for you at Capital Club in DIFC. I don't know if you know of that club. And she was like, oh, well, you just go back and focus on the work. I'll organize everything. And I was like, okay. But I didn't really know who she was. I met her, I think, at some event or something. And it was all a bit seedy. But in my head, I was like, okay, it was Dubai. I've had 2 successful shows. I know there were home shows, but this will be nice. It's going to be in a venue, and you're going to do an invite, and there's going to be like a whole guest list. And I was like, okay, fine. So I went back to London, did the whole collection. I did like 15 pieces at the time. Flew to Dubai for the event, and she pretty much ghosted me. And for the 2 months, she kept telling me, oh, everything's great. She had the venue, but that was it. She didn't invite anybody. There was and she kept sending me all these fake mock-ups of invitations. And in my head, I'm like, okay, great, it's happening. I'm in London. I have no idea what was going on. So I rock up, and then she texted me, and she said, hey, Aadil, sorry, I can't make it. And sorry, I just couldn't make anything happen, but good luck. And I'm there.
And she has the venue.
And she had the venue.
That she paid for.
Well, I actually paid for it.
Oh, damn.
And it turned out that I paid her like twice the amount, because it wasn't even that much. But she basically, I think, did one on me and took my money and ran. And then I'm there in DIFC with 15 paintings, and 8 people showed up, of which 7 were my friends. And then after that, I was like, crap, this is it. The bubble has burst.
What was that like when you were there?
I mean, I cried. It was very depressing. And it's a shame, because my first thought, sadly, I'm being honest, I'm human about it. I was like, oh crap, maybe then this wasn't going to happen. Maybe this was just another little blip. I was going to get a little taste of, oh, this could work. But what was I thinking? It's art. You're an artist. This is not going to.
You still didn't see it at that.
No,
point.
I definitely didn't see it at that point. And then that trip ended up being me, literally, Hamza, like lugging my work in my rental car, from house to house on the Palm, and trying to sell it to people in their homes. And there'd be these ladies that like tell me, it was in July, August time, so it was peak heat.
Summer, yeah.
And I'd be like, I had to lug them in the car, take them all out, array them in the home. And they'd be like, no, maybe, no, actually no, and then like, usher me away. It was the most...
Because it would cost more to get them
Yeah,
back.
exactly. So in my head, I was like, I have to just try and flog these if I can. And it was just, like I said, it was tough. It was mentally, I was really, again, I kind of thought, this is it. After this, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And I think I actually came back to London having not really sold any. but having spent, I think, 2 months in Dubai trying, and nothing was working. And then there was no auntie, there was nothing, no one was helping me, and I was like, wow, that was it. That was a quick. That was a short.
What about the
turnaround.
auntie that helped you initially?
Yeah, she honestly, to be fair, she in her own way, she was trying, but I didn't want to let her on. I didn't let it on that things were that bad. Because, she did such a good, and I'm not going to ask her for more. She was like, "Beta, how did it go?" I was like, "Oh, auntie, alhamdulillah, went amazing, great contacts." And I didn't tell her that the lady basically ghosted me, took my money, because she would have been obviously really, really upset. So I pretty much lied. Came back to London at the end of 2014, super upset. But then it was actually my dad who was kind of like, "You've got this far, you have to carry on. You're not doing anything else now."
Right.
And I remember him saying that to me and me feeling, I was like, damn, this is the first time when he's actually not telling me to go back and do.
Because he saw it.
Yeah.
It was you who did it.
Yeah, I guess. But when you're so in it, I couldn't really see out of it. And I was just so annoyed. Being honest, I was just annoyed. I was like, how could this happen? Like, I've had 2 successful shows in Dubai. And Dubai is a very fickle place. And, I think, especially in those years, and I have lovely friends there, and I love the place, but behind that glitzy facade, it's kind of like it's run like a bit like a third world country, and people were like saying, "Oh, we'll keep the work, we'll sell it in our stores," and actually stuff was actually then being sold, but I wasn't getting paid. So in my head, I was like, "Oh God, Dubai is just this is not going to work," I think actually, so then after that, for 2014, for 6 months. I pretty much wasn't doing anything, and now we're into 2015, and I'm now thinking maybe I should go get a job. But those same thoughts crept back in again, and I was like, and I'm only getting older. I was turning 29 that year, and I was like, oh, this is so depressing. I was like, I'm going to be 30, and nothing is. Again, it's a similar trait of thought. But honestly, alhamdulillah, I feel like God has always placed people in my life at the exact right time, and now this far on in my journey, alhamdulillah, I never have that feeling anymore. Even if there's a bit of a lull, I feel very confident again, inshallah, whenever the right thing is going to happen, and it does, because I don't stop. Obviously, I'm still doing the work, but that feeling of, oh God, and this is what what's happened, and I'll forget it. That's alhamdulillah has completely disappeared. But because I have full faith in Him. And at that time, there was another lady that kind of came out of nowhere, really. And she kind of wanted me to come back to Emirates Golf Club and do a group show. And she had jewelry, and she was like, we'll have 2 other artists. And I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. At this point, I'd take anything. And that it was always like a bit of a relit of a match every time, until I started coming over to America. And then that really then started to change everything. I'm sorry, I'm completely waffling now. I know.
Well, but like I'm actually surprised, because I would think Dubai is like,
I know, you'd think.
I would think that, but now you're saying you come to America, and that's really when you saw things take off. Mm-hmm. I'm curious.
I think in Dubai, again, I'm not Arab. I'm British born. My family's from India and Pakistan. There was this ownership. I used to always feel this. Because I don't speak Arabic, even though we were doing it for a decade, it's very much, it's art, right? For me, it's art, it's typography, I use scripture to express how I feel. It's not like a language that I'm learning as I'm doing it as I go along. There's always a reference that I look at, and then I think of composition, I think of design, I think of color theory, all this type of stuff. But in Dubai, these Emirati ladies would come to my shows and would give me so much grief for not speaking Arabic, for not being Arab. And they'd be like, Aadil, and then come and speak, and I'll be like, I'm so sorry. They're like, well, then why are you painting Arabic? And I was like, well, why can't I? They're like, this is not your language. I was like, well, I grew up reading the Quran. I don't think there's ownership over this language. I mean, even though I'm not Arab, I can still relate to the text and the language. And I used to always just feel they would rather promote Emirati artists and Arab artists. And there was one of my favorite artists, El Cid. He's a French Tunisian guy. And he was my biggest inspiration back then. I just feel like they would always usher more towards those people who they could promote and show off as, he's Arab and this and the other. And I was kind of reliant on my Indian Pakistani expat friends in Dubai to help me with my work. But it got to a point where I felt I'd kind of exhausted that a little bit. And it was funny because everyone thought, you're doing Arabic, Dubai, it makes sense. But no, Dubai ended up not being the right place for me. It was a great kind of start, I guess. But no, I really felt I used to legit feel nervous when I'd have any Emirati or Arab person would come to my shows. I'd be like, oh crap, they're gonna grill me and they're gonna ask me, why can't you speak Arabic? Or why can't you recite that? Why can't you say that? And I was always like, oh my God, please just leave me alone. Just appreciate the art, and if you don't like it, then you're fine. But over here, there's never been any of that.
How did here open up for you?
So again, there was a lovely lady, her name is Salma Hassan Ali. I met her virtually through a mutual friend in 2016. And she, at the time, she's known as like a bit of like a storyteller. You know, she loves finding people who are doing various different career paths. And my mutual friend put me in touch with her. I told her, this is what I've done in the past. And she was, I'd love to host a little intimate dinner. It was always these little dinners. It's always what always starts everything off. And she told me, this was October of 2016. And she hosted me in her beautiful home in DC. And I think I had 10 paintings there at the time. And technically 2015, I actually had a show with my sister-in-law, who's over there, Ruby. She's also an artist. And we did a joint show that my uncle organized in Dallas. But that was more of like a family kind of friend situation. But in 2016, it was like the first of its kind of an entire new audience. I had no idea who these people were. She opened up her Rolodex so much for me. And, and that was an amazing dinner. I think I pretty much sold all the pieces that were there. I left with around 13, 14 commissions. And, there was so much interest and so much love. And again, everybody was just so excited to see something so different, especially in America, where I guess geographically it's that much further from Dubai, and access to the kind of stuff that I was doing, they didn't have access to it. So they really, really enjoyed it. And there was a genuine kind of desire to know more, want to know more. And there was no shame on me. There was no grilling me on. So where's this ayat, say it with Fusha and all this type. And I was like, well, I can't do this. So and then she said to me, Salma, she was like, America, you should really think about, the geography is so big. There's so many Muslims here. Just by virtue of the fact that it's such a massive country, there's so many spots that we could hit. And I was like, okay, I don't really know many people, if you're down to help me. And then she organized a similar event for me in Chicago in April 2017. And again, another successful show. And then I thought to myself, I think I need to start spending some more time here. And in England, it's funny, you haven't asked, but in England, the scope of my work there wasn't really that, in England, there wasn't much desire for what I was doing.
Has that changed now?
I don't really know, because I haven't been focusing on England. I mean, I obviously, alhamdulillah, through just my small social media platform, I send work to London for clients who want it. But I don't know, I just feel like the mindset of people in London is a little bit different. They're a little bit more risk averse. They don't want to spend too much money. Homes aren't as big. They don't want to invest in that kind of artwork. Whereas in America, I just feel like, alhamdulillah, everybody's always up for stuff and everyone's always down to try something new and different.
It's also a tax write-off.
Well, I didn't think of that, but yeah, sure. And for me, I just felt, because people used to say to me, why don't you just focus in London? And I was like, nah, there's not much. People here are a bit, they're not as artsy, I guess, as I would probably like. And then that's when I decided. And then October 2017 is when I left England officially. Was here on a business visa, moved to an O1 visa, and then now I just got my green card. So it's all just, it's crazy to think it's coming up to 6 years.
Yeah. I remember I actually saw one of your shows on video. And in that show, you were painting something. As part of your show, you would have your art displayed, but you would also be
live painting.
Yeah. And so, is that something that was a piece of the attraction, where people would actually come to see you paint stuff live?
I think so. And it's funny because, again, when I met you guys in 2018, that was still kind of figuring out the methodology of how I was doing it. It was still a lot of the home shows and more of these aunties and ladies and who are just patrons of the work who are kind of hosting me and doing all this stuff. But alhamdulillah, it's been a while since I've done that, and I'm blessed that it's a lot more kind of bigger things that are happening now. But I love that that's how it kind of started. It was very much, I met you guys over here in Houston, and I've had shows in Atlanta, in Kentucky, in Tampa, Florida, and I've driven to all these places in my car with paintings in my trunk. And I think the live painting part was always just a fun thing to do. I think I get very conscious of, people coming to an art event, they're just going to stand there and look stoically at a piece of work. Okay, next. I just feel I need to do something, give them something. So it is one of those things that at that time I used to do, like, on tables, and just to kind of show people the process of behind the scenes. It was mixed reactions of some people like, oh, you don't want to let people know how you do it. You don't want to like divulge your secrets. I was like, to be honest, there's no secret. I mean, I'm very blessed that I can do this, and I put in so many hours into this now, where I'm not afraid of showing people that, because the question I get asked even till date the most is how long does it take you to do a painting? How long does it take you to? And I'm like, that's a very difficult question to answer, because it's taken me years to get to the speed at which I can do it now. So, you're not paying, you must have heard this as well, you're not paying for the time it takes me now, you're paying for the years it's taken me to get to a point where I can do it.
So hold on, your people are asking you how much time it takes to justify price?
Sometimes. I think that's probably where their mind is trying to go. Because when they see my prices, then obviously for the most part now, alhamdulillah, people will pay. But for some people, they're like, oh, you can command that much, but how long does it take you to do it? I'm like, if it took me half an hour, you're paying me for how long it's taking me to get to the point where I can do it in half an hour. So it's funny. I laugh it off. It's not one of those things I take very seriously. But back then, yeah, I used to be very scared about letting people in on, what am I doing? And I used to hear from people like, oh, you don't want people copying you. And I was like, let them copy me. I have no issue. It's fine. There's no monopoly on this. I mean, again, I'm very alhamdulillah blessed that this comes from him. It can go from him anytime soon. And I'm just very much just the intermediary. I have no formal training in painting. It's something which is completely self-taught. And it's funny because the small team that I have, in 2020, the guy who I was working with at the time, he said to me, there'll come a time when people will be copying your stuff. And I was like, that would be amazing, because I used to copy other people, right? And now I get tagged on Instagram so many times, people all copying and sending such amazing messages, and that's such an amazing, for me, that's a huge achievement, because I just feel
you're
like
an inspiration.
Well, no, I don't want to say that, but it's just nice to see that kind of evolution of people.
Oh, you're being humble.
Well, no, but whatever. I just feel like I'm very lucky that I'm in a position where I can hopefully cultivate something in other people the same way that other people did that for me. So it's kind of like I'm just passing it on, if there's like a baton that's going around. So.
Let's talk about the '01. So, and the reason I want to talk about it is I think a lot of people who immigrate to the U.S., have stories about immigration as well. And it's something that nobody really talks about. Everybody talks about the business and how we struggled and how we made money and how we did this. Nobody talks about immigration. Yeah. And I just want to know, what was your process like?
Yeah, that's a good question. No one's ever asked me that. It was tough. It was tough. It was a massive, big packet that you had to submit. So obviously, 01 is the artist visa. It's funny because it used to say alien with extraordinary talent. That's what it said on the USCIS on the application form. And it was one of those visas where I genuinely wasn't sure whether I'd get it, because you have to prove that you are this entity who's doing something very specialized and very unique, and you have to be in this part of the world. Like, why I could just do it from England. Like, I was doing it from England. I was painting and traveling and whatever. But so it's a whole case you have to put forward. You have to get, I think, 20 references from people that you've worked with across. At that point, I'd only really had 4 or 5 years of actual experience. Pictures, brochures, magazines that have mentioned your name, Instagram, social media, Google Analytics of stuff. I had a lawyer, obviously, that was helping me with this, but it took a year just to acquire all the things I needed to apply for this visa, not even knowing if I was going to get it or not, and with my business visa expiring. And it was one of those things where I was like, if I don't get this, then again, I don't know how I'm going to continue staying in this country. But alhamdulillah, all the references, me chasing them. And there had to be 20 different people.
And you had to chase them.
I had to chase them. And your application is that much stronger if you can find people from all over the world who can vouch for you.
So did you get people who are afraid and they're like, look, we don't want to get involved. We love you, but I can't give you a reference.
Actually,
because they just don't understand what.
No, thankfully no. But there are a lot of people I had to chase. A lot of people said yes, and then a month, 2 months. Yeah. So, but there's one person that took a year, and I think they may have been the main reason why it took me a whole year. And it was just one of those things where I had to constantly be on their case, and they were like, well, what do we have to say? I was like, just talk about what the experience was like working with me. What that I'm legitimate, that I'm not like some fake con artist or whatever. And the packet, like I said, was a huge packet that we had to submit. And I think we heard back within, I think 2-3 months actually. It wasn't that long.
And how'd you find the attorney?
Through a friend of mine, actually, who had got the O1 a few years before with that same guy. So it was a guy in New York I was using at the time. I think he passed away now, sadly. But he was great. I mean, and he helped me during the entire process, and kept reassuring me. Oh no, because I kept thinking at this point, damn, maybe I'm not that legit. Maybe I'm not going to get this visa because I don't know if I have all these credentials. But I think because I'm doing something which is very niche, it's very specific. And obviously, I made the case that I need to be living in America to do it because obviously I'd exhausted London. I've been there for such a long time, and they want to know what stuff you have planned. You need to give them like a 3-year plan of what you're planning to do because the visa is for 3 years. And then, alhamdulillah, I got it in 2019.
And then, was there a renewal process, or did you go direct from?
Well, no. What happened was it's funny. I got stuck in London for 4 months afterwards. I got the visa here in 2019 in February. The last formality was I have to go to London to just get the stamp.
Correct.
In my head,
the embassy.
With the embassy. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I felt like I'd done the hard work, and I was like, let's just go and do this. And then I was like, you know what? I have a wedding in June. I'll go to the embassy, get it done. I was only going to go for 2 weeks, trip to London, see everybody, come back. And I went to the U.S. Embassy, the stoic white building U.S. Embassy in England, and the lady just started grilling me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, I have it. Like, don't talk to me. I've done the hard work. And she just kept asking me all these questions, where I've been, what I'm doing, why I'm in the US. And then in my head, I was like, literally, in my head, I just thought it was a simple process. And then she goes, okay, thank you, we'll be in touch. And she just took my application, stamped it, and it said, this is now an admin processing.
That's a 6-month process.
For me, it was 17 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you serious? And I was done. Like, I couldn't, there was no way of knowing. She literally ushered me out. And I remember it was morning, it was raining in England, and I was like, what? After all of that, now this, and I'm stuck here. And it was funny because I was like, I'm not stuck in a horrendous place, I was stuck in England. But in my head, I was like, my entire life is now in America, and I've been working so hard at it. I finally have it, and now I was stuck. So I was in England from June to end of September 2019. And then...
By the way, you're lucky 17 weeks.
Right?
Wallah, you're lucky, man.
What happened? I feel like you have...
So I had a similar thing happen to me.
Oh, no.
I got my business visa, and I decided to go to Lebanon. And I went to Lebanon, and I was like, same thing. I went for Christmas.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to go meet my in-laws. I love my in-laws. So I'm going to go meet them for Christmas. And Sana, me, and the kids will go to the embassy, the Stoic building.
Yeah.
And we'll apply. And so, same thing. We went in. We're like, look, we have this application. It's approved. We just need you to stamp our passport so we can go back to the U.S. And they're like, yeah, sure, admin processing. I didn't even know what that was. Submit our passports. The country shuts down. They don't have a government. They go on riots. U.S. embassy shut down for like four months or something.
Oh,
so we have no idea what's going on. Are they processing our paperwork? Are things happening? And then I think at that point we left Lebanon. We went to Dubai. We went to Thailand. We started going on vacation. And they called us one day when we were in Thailand, actually in Bangkok. And they're like, oh yeah, you can come back and you can submit your passport and your stuff is ready, so we can stamp it for you. And so the same thing happened to us. Admin processing.
Yeah, that's the worst. And it's funny because then I got back into the country in end of September, and then I haven't gone back since because COVID happened, and then I was stuck because at the time they were only allowing green card holders to come back into the country. And then I started the green card process, just kind of like more of a migration. And I thought it was a little bit of like a long shot trying to do that. But alhamdulillah, I did the full application in 2021, submitted all the paperwork
for your green card.
For the green card.
Okay.
In 2021, because the O1 was expiring in February 2022. And to be honest, I never even really used the O1 because I never left the country after that. So all that effort, all that money I had to do it obviously for legal reasons, but filed in September 2021, had my interview in January 2023, and then I got the green card in April. And so now
it took a minute.
Took a long time. So I'm going back to London after 3 years and 3 quarters basically.
And I feel like that's something that people just don't understand. They think
honestly,
you come in business.
It's the honest, and it's true. And this is Immigrant Unfiltered. So yes, you'd think it's so it's so, you don't think
Or it
about
should be.
how hard it should be easy, but moving to even setting up like a bank account is all these small things. I mean, the last thing I haven't done is my driver's license, and I need to do that now, right? Because now I have my green card, and I actually got pulled over. I got pulled over last week by the cops in Virginia. I was running late to a gym class, and I rolled over your stupid stop signs in this country.
Yeah.
And she caught me on not having a Virginia license. And I said to her, oh, my green card just came last month. And she's like, okay, so you've had a month to get it. And I was like, yes, I've been traveling and I'm going to do it. She's like, do you have proof that you have a DMV appointment? I was like, no, but I'm going to do it. She's like, well, I'm going to cite you. And then she gave me this massive court order. And now I'm like, are you adding all this stuff to this? Again, this strenuous process of now I have to go into this license.
Emotionally draining process.
Honestly, man, I'm over it. At this point, I'm like, I'm done.
They really humble you.
Honestly.
And it doesn't matter what your background
It's so
is.
hard. It's so hard.
Getting that green card in your hand and then ultimately your citizenship, it's a really humbling process.
Yeah, of course. And it's funny because everyone asks me, do you want citizenship? And in my head, I'm like, you know what, just for ease of life and traveling, yes, I probably will. But I think I can keep both my UK and US. But no, honestly, man, it's like I said, it's been 6 years and it's still not finished. And it's just this. Now it feels a bit more lighter, obviously, because I have the green card. But honestly, this immigration cloud definitely has been hovering.
You know what
for
the
last 3-4
processing time
years.
for immigration is today?
No.
It's for any immigrant, standard immigrant
I'm
who comes in, 10 years
For what?
to get to citizenship. So not to receive, not to get their citizenship in their hand,
Okay.
but to get to the process where they are now eligible to be 10 years.
Really?
Yes.
So
You're actually on the short end of the.
Damn.
Everybody who comes here on what are those
Like
tech
work
visas called?
Are they like K or I think student is an F1.
Students F1s are terrible because F1 they need to then go into another form of visas and they need to
H1?
H1. So the H1Bs now, and I think
These
now
letters.
they're coming back to where they have enough staff to cater to the needs. But since I've been here, it's been about 10 years. I haven't met even one person probably who's told me that, oh yeah, it was a 2-year process or 3 or whatever it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? Everybody's it's prolonged and everybody's just going through that
I think,
together.
I don't really value even our parents' time, I guess, when they left India and Pakistan, came to London and all the various, back then I think things were a lot harder as well, right? But yeah, moving country is just, it's an ordeal. It's very taxing. I mean, my sister-in-law, she's been here for 20 years, she's also British and, I know it's just one of those things where you'd like to think, I'm moving to America. I'm British. It should be a pretty seamless process, but language is the same. I know you guys other side of the road, but other than that, pretty much everything else is not too dissimilar. But yeah, no, immigration is one of the toughest things, and I hope, inshallah, now I'm like, if there's a long list, I'm near the end.
Do you feel like it impacts your flow even with your art at times?
Yes, I think definitely yes, because I haven't been home in nearly 4 years, and it's done the opposite for me in that it's literally, if anything, just made me so immersed in my work in these last 3-4 years, because that's all I have to do, right? I have no family here. I haven't been able to go home and see my family. I'll dip into Dallas to come and see family. That's why that's my go into Texas all the time is to come and see my family. But other than that, honestly, I live, breathe my work, and I'm always, if I'm not painting, then I'm ideating. If I'm not ideating, then I'm pitching. If I'm not pitching, then I'm discussing stuff with my team, planning future events, collaborations, brand stuff, whatever. So, I don't really know what else to do. I do need to figure out. And like I said, now, alhamdulillah, the green card has arrived. I'm getting to go home, and I think I need that recharge with my loved ones, with my college friends, with the people that know me before I was whatever I am. It was just the Aadil from England who just grew up with them, went to college with them, not this artist who whatever. And I need that because I've not had that in a very, very long time. And I have lovely friends in Virginia. I've made some lovely friends, lifelong friends over there, but it's still not the same as the people that kind of knew me before I moved here. And I missed out on so many. My friends have got married, they've had children. When I left,
whole life,
it's
whole world.
4 years. A lot happens in 4 years.
Right.
So I feel like I'm very much looking forward to that. And I'm off. I'm in London for 3 weeks. Then I'm going to Dubai for a week, and then I go to Australia to Sydney because my brother's over there. And I haven't seen my sister-in-law and my nieces again for nearly 5 years. So she was 10, she's now 15. The little one was
Different
5, she's
person.
now 10. So I'm looking, I just can't wait. The next 2 months, I'm literally taking off and just full recharge. And I hope, inshallah, I can come back and then, crack on with the work that I have planned for Q3 and Q4. So.
I think the work is going to be insane after the recharge.
I hope
I'm
so.
excited to see what comes out.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think it'll be colorful and very airy and light. That's kind of the vibe I'm hoping for.
So you've been working on a few really cool projects recently,
Yeah.
right? I know you went to the White House. I know you've
Yeah.
been working, or you were alongside Jay Shetty
Yes,
for a minute,
yes.
and then I know that there were some other cool things that you were doing. And I just want to know how did those opportunities come along?
I wish there was like a clear-cut answer. Honestly, I feel during COVID, honestly, that time I actually took to really rethink where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. I met someone that kind of guided me into helping me position myself as to how to present myself as an artist. I mean, his whole thing was you need to sell your work artistically. Everything you do has to be artistic. And then when I met him up to that point, I was like, I feel like I kind of already do. But he was like, no, you do not. I was like, okay, fine. I guess I'm not doing it right. And he was like, these home shows, this all has to stop, and people shouldn't be able to access you, and you need to have like a collection and have a whole full like production kind of around where you launch things. And to be honest, it was all the right things, and I'm really happy that he guided me into that way, because again, I keep saying this, there's no blueprint to how to be an artist, right? I've had to kind of make it myself. So it was in 2020, October, when I came out with my first ever collection. Up until that point, it was just painting for clients, doing shows at homes, in people's homes and whatnot. And whenever an order would come, I would do it. There wasn't much of I wasn't really doing anything for me. It was very much what other people wanted me to do. And I had all these ideas, and every time a client would come, I'd be like, oh, can we do this? They'd be like, nah, my color scheme is there. I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And then, so he said to me, because you need to do something for yourself. And then I decided, I've always loved the phrase kun fayakun, be and it is. I just felt it's the origin of life. It's the first kind of noise of sound that was made. And I feel for me, I just wanted to keep it simple, keep it classic, keep it very much me, and my favorite color palette at the time, which was very classic, black, gold, and white, and really just enhance the calligraphy and the lettering and my style of typography, the ribbon style, the very, manipulate the letters, just really accentuate all my favorite things that, alhamdulillah, I feel like I've developed a bit of a signature style on that. And then I met an amazing videographer, cinematographer who I love till date, Chansey, who I work with till all the time. She's never going anywhere. She's not allowed to go anywhere. And we did a whole production. We hired a studio. We had a smoke machine. We did a full-on, had all the artwork in this room, and we like proper launch, did a full-on launch. And honestly, I feel like that really just like, in all the years or whatever I was doing prior to that was great, but that in itself just put me in another notch of just, oh wow, okay, he takes this very seriously. And and I wasn't even thinking about, I didn't care if the collection didn't sell. My whole thing was I want to artistically depict it and produce it and show it. And then off the back of that, honestly, Hamza, just sharing that people on Instagram were sharing at the time. Back then, I didn't have that many followers either. And whoever saw it, it was very much like, oh, wow, we've never even seen someone launch an art collection, canvases like that, right? You'd always see them on ads and brands and, products of certain kinds. And that really kind of opened the gates to, I guess, me even reaching out, and at the time it was with me and the guy I was working with, but cold emailing clients, sending them what we've done, and then them looking at that and being, oh wow, this is amazing. And if we gave you a product, could you go away and ideate and come out with it and do? And well, yeah, we can. And then that is kind of what started. And then 2021, spent some time in LA. Did some cool commissions for some celebrities, and then Disney got in touch, Apple got in touch, did some really cool campaign work with them. But I think it all stemmed from that first collection where I really felt, I can do this. If you just give me a brief, I'll go away and ideate color theme. I'll go and do the brand, the verbiage, how we're going to present it, leave it even nominal. Went to the jewelry collection for them. They were great. They very much, and I'm blessed that they very much left it up to me. But artistically, I only ever want to work with brands. I value, if I'm working with other creatives, I will value what you have to say. But if it's like a business who don't really present themselves creatively or artistically, I prefer it if you kind of left all that to us, me and my team, that, trust us that we can do that. And alhamdulillah, whoever I worked with, in the past, even like Disney, when we did there was the first time that they were acknowledging Eid last year. And then they reached out and we did the whole collaboration with Aladdin, and I painted the lamp, and the theme was wishes. And they left it all up to me, and from ideation. And Chansey, my videographer, she came on board, and we storyboarded the entire thing. And I love all of that. There's so much more creativity that goes into outside of just picking up a brush. And it's funny because now my parents understand. But at the beginning, when they didn't see me painting, they're like, "So what are you doing with your time?" I was like, "Guys, there's so much other stuff that comes around before I even pick up a brush." And now, alhamdulillah, they know. And they now tell their friends, because even their friends are always like, "So Aadil, is he still doing painting? Is he still doing that?" And I was like, "Yes." He was showing them all the stuff. They're like, "Oh wow, this is amazing." Because it's fine. I don't blame them. They don't fully understand what this is, right? If they don't see a brush and a canvas up somewhere, they think, "Oh, Aadil bichara, nothing's really happening." But I think it's one of those things where I've really had to educate myself, and I guess in turn educate others as to this is how you can present yourself as a visual artist who's working in, I guess, more traditional methods like canvas and brush and and all of that, as opposed to dance and film and singing and all that type of stuff. So I feel like the last 3 years have definitely changed the trajectory as to how I present myself. Brands who are now in touch with me and the future stuff that I'm working on, I feel more confident in, this is how I want to do it. If you guys are ready to kind of, buy into the idea, I'm very happy to listen to what you have as well. But trust me that, I will bring something really cool to the table as well. And that's kind of where I've ended up right now. So.
I think it's a huge deal that Disney reached out to you.
That was huge. I was very, and they posted it on their Instagram, and they had, I think, over like 1 million views. But on their Facebook and on their YouTube even, I think it ended up having, I think, close to 90 million views, that video that we did. And then the VP of Disney reached out to me and thanked me, and he was just like, "We're so grateful," because a day before they were going to pull it. We did the shoot, we went to New York, went to the theater, did the whole shoot. They saw the edit, and then everyone was so excited. But the day before Eid, they were like, "Oh, this might seem too Islamic. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then my friend who's actually now my friend at the time, Raki at Disney, she's Hindu, she wasn't even Muslim. She fought so hard for this to come out. Did a whole presentation to them, telling them this is not Islamophobic. This is exactly what you guys have to be doing. Anyway, she did a whole spiel, and then the next day, they posted it. But it was
these are things people don't hear about.
Exactly. I know.
Like one day before,
literally, and
the nerves.
And we're all ready to go. I had everything ready. The caption done, with the whole co-collaboration situation. Everything was ready, and all the effort was. We're so excited. And then, literally 12 hours before, I get an email saying, "Aadil, this might not come out," and I was like, "What?" And I couldn't do anything at that point because I'm not part of in a team. I just texted Raki, and she was like, "Don't worry, I'm going to sort this out." And then, thankfully, she did.
And she fought for you.
She did, like I said, and and she was, now that's set up a new precedent. Now every year now they're going to be doing something for Eid, and it's nice to know, like, I guess I may have started it, but it's just nice that they even acknowledged it, and and they should, rightly so. And I feel like if other brands start to do all of that, and I think
well, but if you think about it, I mean, they're obviously going to do it again next year, right? The guy who's going to, or whoever is going to do it next year, whether it's you or anybody else, will take inspiration from the first person who did it.
Inshallah, yeah, that is the plan. I hope, for sure.
Right, so you've basically started a legacy.
No, not a legacy, but it's a cool thing. Just a cool thing.
100 years from now, when you're not here,
oh my God, can you imagine?
Disney's still gonna be here.
That painting will be covered in dust.
You're gonna be the first person who did that.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
That's cool. Alhamdulillah.
Let's talk about all the other struggling artists, all the other struggling immigrant artists. What do they need to do to become something?
That's a bit of a loaded question. Honestly, Hamza, like I said, I think what I've kept in me as my grounding force, again, not to sound preachy, but for me is my faith. I think faith in myself, faith in my family having faith in me, if that in a roundabout way, and just, I think, patience. I used to always get irked by people who were younger than me, who were doing all these cool things, and I'm like, shit, every year I'm just getting older, and I think, and it's only with time, I guess, you realize that everyone is going to happen when it's going to happen for you. You can't expedite it. You can't make it go slower, faster. You have to put in the hours, you have to put in the work, you have to do all the back end work that we've been talking about, the grafting, the slugging, all that type of stuff.
What does that look like?
It's just a lot of, any collection that I do, there's probably like 10 iterations before I actually decide on the final one. And it will involve sketching, it will involve back and forth conversations with my team, what I can do. I go away, there's months that go into it, and then at the nth moment, I could change it and do something else. So there's so many back end stuff that no one sees. Ideas that get lost, ideas that get paused, ideas that never make it onto a canvas, the stuff I'll use for something else later on. I think it's just, I don't see it again. I don't see it because I'm so in it. But when people see me, they always, your work ethic and this and that. And I'm just like, well, there's no other option. I mean, I'm alhamdulillah so blessed to be doing what I'm doing. I never want it to stop. And if I stop, then it stops. So for any of the struggling artists, and I would put myself in that to an extent because I feel it, right? Even though alhamdulillah all these cool things have happened, I still have a fear that it could all one day just stop, and people might not be interested in my work anymore. And I never get complacent. I never ever think, I did this, like this Disney thing, right? In my head, genuinely, I'm talking about it now, but I do not sit there and think about it and be like, in 2021 I did this. No, that's for me. That's ages ago. What's next? And even after something really cool happens, I'm like, great, alhamdulillah, next. I don't want to take the highs high. I don't want to take the lows low. I very much kind of want to just be in this middle space. And I feel like for anybody who is struggling, you need to look at yourself and ask yourself, hours you're putting in, are you actually fully ideating? Are you really exhausting and all networking? I mean, honestly, I know it sounds cliche, but there is an element of luck in this as well. And I think I have been lucky. I'm very blessed to know other cool people who are doing cool things. And then, they open up a door, and then but I'm very aware I've knocked on like hundreds of doors. And then if one door is relevant, I'll take it. Right?
So you've done that.
I'm all my entire life. And it's become so second nature to me that I don't even notice that I'm doing it sometimes. But my friends, they're like, we see you, and but we could tell that person's not going to do anything, but you still talk to them, you still get wrong. Who knows? I don't know what was going to happen. I need to give it a shot. And I think networking is a big skill that I'm not sure if people, I guess they do, but I'm not that well versed in the business side of life. But for me, networking has definitely put me in a great position where I'm always open to stuff. I might eventually say no, or something might not happen, but I'm always open to speaking to someone, seeing where it might go, following through to an extent, but then also realizing now that, okay, alhamdulillah, now I'm in a position where I can say no. But in the beginning, I would say yes. I would try so many things. And you have to, because you can't sit there and be like, no, I'm going to wait until this opportunity comes. You have to, I could have easily sat there and be like, I'm not going to drive around my paintings in a car and take them house to house and legit be like a salesman in the heat. I'm going to sit and wait and be cushy about it. So I just feel like I can only speak for myself and my own experience. Obviously, I know that I put in the hard work. I still give myself a hard time that I'm not doing enough. So that keeps me going. Obviously, to carry on. But the advice I would give is just you need to have faith. You need to have patience. And just keep at it. I mean, there's no right way about doing this. For every other profession, I feel like you do this, then this is what's going to happen. You go down this course, you're going to get this qualification. Whereas with us, being in the creative world, it's so fickle, it's so subjective. Yeah, every day is different. And some people will love your stuff, some people will hate your stuff. It's very much, which is why I said I'm very much just trying to stay in this middle lane. And not get affected by the good or the bad too much, because you do become complacent. I've seen it. Alhamdulillah, I'm really blessed to be around some really super successful people who are killing it, and I see they never take it for granted. I mean, I see how hard they work. I see how many hours they put into what they're doing. They could easily chill. They've made all the money. They made all the, they have all the fame, all of that. But I'm like, I see the graft they're putting in, and in my head, I'm like, mate, if they're doing it, then I'm like, there's no end. So I never want to feel like I've made it, because then I'm like, shit. Then what's left to do? So if in a roundabout way, if that answers your question, I just feel like you have to just, and like I said, patience is one of the biggest things. And that when it's meant to happen, it will happen for you. And if it's not, something else will happen for you. You know, it might not be that what you want, but something is going to happen. I know that sounds generic, but
Let's talk about social media.
yes.
So obviously you've grown leaps and bounds on social media. You know, you continue to grow. There's a lot of cool content that you put out there. But I've noticed that you don't really share too much personal stuff.
Yes.
And you know, it's all your work. It's beautiful. It's all of that. What is the reason?
I just feel like it's not important. I feel my personal life is my personal life. It's different. I mean, even with you, I mean, I'm not sure how much of your personal life you put on what you're doing. I mean, if that's relevant to what you're doing, then I guess you will talk about it. But if it's not, at the end of the day, I have a product, and you know, it's only been in the last few years where I've also put myself in alignment with the product. Whereas prior to that, you know, it was very much just the work. You know, the very little me. But I get it. The social media game, and people want to know who's the artist and what does he do, and you know, and it's funny because I get a lot of brands who reach out to me and saying, "Oh, we'd love to send you this, and can you promote this?" I'm like, mate, I'm not an influencer. I'm not. I actually have something that I'm offering you, right? And you know, I know influencer is a separate thing and its own entity and whatever. But you know, I genuinely want to share something with you that I've made, that I've actually, you know, have a craft. So I always say no to all these brands that reach out and say, we'll send you this, can you post this, can you promote this, can you do this? I'm like, no, because I know my lane, and I'm very aware of what I'm doing. And I feel like if you bring in your personal situation into that, I just think the lines get a little bit blurred, and then people start to think they can access you more and ask for more and, you know, infer about things that aren't true or whatever. I don't care. And people can say what they want to say. You know, all I care about is obviously my relationship with God. As long as my parents are happy, you know, that's it. I don't really care what anyone else has to think or say about my, you know, whatever I'm doing personally. Therefore, I don't think I need to talk about it on my social media. Of course, every now and then, you know, I will post fun stuff that I'm doing and, you know, events and whatever I'm doing, because that I feel like that's happened because of the cool stuff that I'm also doing. And, you know, I think anybody who's doing creative stuff is always, you know, how do I say this without sounding thingy? But I'm just doing different stuff. It's different, right? I mean, my friends in England, and back then when I was just starting out, used to get so annoyed at me because we'd go to new settings and people would be talking and they'd ask, oh, what does everybody do? And every time, oh, I'm an accountant, or I'm a banker, and no one would ask anything else. And anytime I'd say, oh, I'm an artist, they'll be, oh, well, what's that about? Everyone's always interested. Yeah. So they were like, Aadil, next time, can you just not say you're an artist? So I was like, okay, fine. So we went out one time and we were going new people, and I was like, they asked me what do. I was like, I'm an accountant. They're like, okay, next. No one cared. And I was like, oh, great. I don't have to talk about anything else. So I just think people, especially with social media, there's too much of a window into your life. And again, coming back to, because I'm not an influencer, people don't need to know, you know, who I'm wearing, what I'm doing, even though I know I just posted about it recently, but that's more of an extenuating circumstance. But it's more just, I feel like I want the focus to be on the work. I really want it to stay on the campaigns I'm working on, what I'm doing with calligraphy, what I'm doing with typography. I feel like, you know, it's such a, again, people don't, especially the non-Muslims who are seeing my work now, and my goal has always been to involve other people of other faiths into my work, and, you know, getting commissioned by clients who don't even understand Arabic, but visually they love it. That for me is my focus. You know, I want people to see the script in a different light. I want that to kind of extend, you know, traditions and borders and all those words that people say. I don't think it's important for people to really know who I am. You know, when I have collections, when I have dinners, or if I have these intimate events and whatnot, yes, of course, I will talk to people, and you can always access me. I feel like I think I'm very inclusive, you know, but I want the work to obviously be exclusive. Right. So, you know, I think it's just finding that balance, I think, is important. So, you know, I don't shy away from posting about my personal stuff, but it's not the focus. It's not my personal life.
How reflective is your outlet, your social media outlet, towards your business?
I mean, it's
Is it everything?
It sounds depressing, doesn't it, when you say it is? Yeah, it's not everything, but it's a big part. I think I get to access people all across the world. I mean, I'm sending my work to people in like Papua New Guinea. You know, I mean, I've never even been there, right? And you know, I'm shipping work to Australia, to Singapore, to India, to Dubai, to Pakistan, to Canada, and I'm just like, this is amazing. And I'm sitting in my house in Virginia, America, and accessing all these people. So I feel like it's made my life so much more full, even though it's virtual to an extent. But I'm getting all these different access points that I probably would not have ever got without social media. And I think I like to think I'm pretty true to it in that I don't get forced to post. You have to do all these things. It's very much.
So you're not posting like once. You don't have like a regimen.
Not at all. I don't know, not at all. For me, like I posted like twice or thrice this month. That's it. It's not one of those structured things every day I have to post. No, for me, it's very much this is mine. And inshallah, when I'm ready to talk about something or have something, I will talk about it. You know, I just had a dinner in New York a couple of weeks ago. That was like a private dinner that was organized by a friend of mine, and then the collection I'm going to drop obviously in the coming days. So stuff like that, you know, and it's fun, and you know, I get to make cool kind of real content behind the scenes, and you know, I get to have my team, which I love, and you know, I trust them implicitly, and they do such a good job of you know portraying me in a really lovely way. You know, I feel like for me, I think for anybody in the visual world, social media it is important, and you know, alhamdulillah, I have a good relationship with it. It's not one of those things. If ever I'm scrolling, it's purely just to be inspired to see what other people are doing and get ideas, and you know, figuring out a way of, okay, that's really cool. How can I incorporate that into what I'm doing? You know, I know there's TikTok as well, but I'm not that. I can't. I just feel like I can't.
Yeah, because the TikTok life is very intrusive. It's very personal.
That's too much, and
people want that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I'm very lucky that I've managed to stay away from that.
So top 3 platforms, then TikTok wouldn't be number 1 for you.
No, TikTok. Honestly, to me, it is just Instagram. I wouldn't even. Facebook is not that for me. For me personally, I know it's still there, and for the OG people and YouTube and all that type of stuff, but for me, it's getting a product out there to the right people who have the means, inshallah, to purchase the work, to let me carry on creating. It always tends to be Instagram. TikTok is there, but it's a lot more of the Gen Z people who you might get the numbers and the likes and the followers and stuff, but the conversions don't really happen there for me. It's predominantly Instagram for me.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on TikTok going away?
Hey, they keep saying that, but I don't think, are they actually going to do it?
I don't know. I don't know, because you know the thing is we get guests who are like, yeah, you know, our number 1 thing is TikTok right now, but since it's going away, we're jumping on these other 3 platforms, you know, whatever those are.
I mean,
but in your case, since you're Instagram, I'm guessing.
I hope Instagram doesn't go away, obviously, and I feel like when they were changing the algorithms to become more like TikTok, it was annoying because it was kind of one of those things, especially as an artist. You know, I also there's something I like about a stoic picture, you know, and just having a look. Not everything has to be moving all the time. And I think now I've read some of the Instagram are actually going back to.
They are.
Thankfully, maybe because they're realizing that whole is not working, and they need to be different from TikTok as well. I feel like TikTok has, again, everyone needs to stay in their lane. So if you just stay in your lane of TikTok, what you're doing, let Instagram do what it was doing. They don't need to copy it. I mean, it's funny. More for personal reasons, but just people in my life, it'd be fun if TikTok disappeared, because then I feel like I'd have a lot more of their attention, because a lot of people are on there all the time. But as of now, I just hope Instagram stays, and I'm happy that they're bringing it back to the original kind of algorithm, because that supports people like me who are doing visual stuff as well as you know, videography and cinematography. There's an element of photography that I feel like, you know, has to come back again, because I feel like it was a bit unfair for those guys who have still images. Like, what are you going to do? Just constantly having reels and the same audio and the same thing is so repetitive. That takes away actually from the creativity, to be honest. You're kind of held by, what do? Do you stick to your guns and don't do what the algorithm is telling you and get like 10 views, but you want to get the views, right? So there's a balance, and I feel like I do a bit of both. You know, I'll be honest, I do pick the audios that will help me get my work seen, because my goal is to get seen, but then stuff that I love, ideas that I have, like a recent wallpaper collaboration, I really wanted it to be like my own kind of voice behind it and the music and everything, and picked something that wasn't trending, that wouldn't go viral, because I'm like, I don't want to be, you know, held to that all the time.
So a wallpaper collaboration is you painting an entire wall?
No, it was me painting on canvas, on paintings, and then me shipping the work to the company, Area Environments. They do these amazing high quality scans of them, and then they become these full-on murals. So we launched that. Actually, the public line went live yesterday.
Wow, congrats.
Thanks.
How does something like that happen? I'm curious.
Again, someone slid into my DMs on Instagram. Her name is Abby. I love her. She's so amazing.
That's crazy, man.
She reached out to me and she said, we've been following you for a while. We love what you do. We love to work with you on a wallpaper line. And at that time, I've always thought of doing, having my work on a much larger scale. But it was always one of those things where I was like, I need to figure out the production, all the back end stuff, and I was like, I'll get to it. So when they reached out, and then they actually are a legit, they're a very renowned organization in the industry world, in the trade world, in restaurants and hotels and all of that. But for me, it was the first time they were launching a public line. Because I told them, I was like, look, my audience, if it's just trade, they're going to be so annoyed that I'm finally doing this, but you have to have an interior designer to access to the wallpapers. So, and then I think based off of just, again, the way I present myself, and they were like, we'll do 4 for trade, we'll do 4 for public. And alhamdulillah, they've had a great reception so far. And in the beginning, I was like, so do you want me to dull down the calligraphy? They're like, no, we love it. We love the drama. We love the way it kind of dances on the wall, and there's no one that's doing anything like it. So they literally let me do exactly what I wanted to do, which is great. And it's a full white organization.
And we need to bring you back in season 2 and get an update on that.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's alhamdulillah, and they want to do another collection next year, and even in LA now, there's a lot more things moving in the direction of non-Muslim people wanting to see my work, and yeah, exactly, it's art, and I feel like that was always my goal from the beginning. I mean, I'm so blessed that my community, my people, South Asians, Indians, Muslims have supported me thus far, and I hope obviously they inshallah continue to. But if I can bring newer people into the audience as well, that's just I'll be so happy. I really hope that happens, inshallah. So
that's awesome. So I know you answered this earlier, and you said, "Look, I don't know where I'm going," but
I don't.
But we really need to know who you're gonna be in 5 years.
Oh God, I don't know.
So you're taking a 2-month break. You're gonna recharge. You're gonna come back super fresh, right?
I'm going to become more British, I hope, after going home, because I feel like my accent's disappearing. Honestly, Hamza, no, I feel like I just want to be in a more, how do I say it? Just more, I am very content, alhamdulillah. And, I just want to be able to continue putting out the type of imagery and the messaging that I'm doing that I never really thought was a responsibility that I had. I very much just fell into Arabic. I very much fell into calligraphy and picking verses from the Quran, and then poetry, and then just it's something that there wasn't much thought initially in the beginning, and now that it's become this much bigger thing, and there's lots of people who are so engaged in what I'm doing and interested in what I'm doing. I feel like now it is my responsibility to present it in just a very non-confrontational, I know I keep saying this word, but just a very beautiful way. And I hope I come across like that, and I hope my work comes across like that. I have desires of painting or movie sets, and doing having a whole product line, and doing decking out restaurants and doing all these really cool things. I just hope the projects just continue to get bigger and better. I mean, I don't know what else I can say. I never want to stop. So in 5 years, I hope inshallah when we have our next discussion, I can say, look, these are all the cool other things I've been doing, and they're much bigger installations, and I have 2 or 3 other kind of lines happening on the side, and there's a lot I want to do. And there's plans that I have. So I think the honest answer is just I hope in the next 5 years I'm still doing what I love. That's honestly all I can say.
What a great conversation, man.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I feel like I waffled.
What a great conversation. Seriously, man. I learned so much today about the world of art, and how that how beautiful it is, and how you just have to navigate it. And it is an art, within itself.
Of course.
Just navigating this industry. It's totally an art. And you're building a brand, and it's all based off of that.
Yeah,
that's crazy. So thanks, Aadil.
Thank you, Hamza. Thank you so much.
It was really good having you. Thank you for coming. I know you're driving to Dallas after this.
No worries. I appreciate it.
But thank you for being here.
Thank you.